Holy crap. Holy freaking crap, everybody. Welcome to the Forbidden Land podcast. That's right. Big news this week. In fact, I'm having to update the doc as we speak because we've got new information. But yeah. All right. Sorry, I had to add that. I decided to check the news right before I started. We got some interesting info. I'm recording this a little earlier in the week, so I can just add on more later if I have to. Big news. I talked about Artemis last week. Artemis 2 on the 10th, on April 10th. Splashed down. I'm saying it like Trump. On the 10th, it splashed down into the ocean. That's right, folks. That's right. Yeah, they had successful splashdown. So a successful moon mission. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So let's get into it. So a lot of stuff has been going on in Congress this week. A lot of shit with the Iran war has been going on this week. A holy war of sorts is going on so far. Graham Plattner came out and said that he would support the impeachment. God, like so much phlegm. He came out and said he would support the impeachment of at least 2 sitting Supreme Court justices for corruption, which, you know, fair. Clarence Thomas is obviously one of them. He's probably the most corrupt member of the Supreme Court in U.S. history, taking unbelievable amounts of money from a rich billionaire friend of his and accepting trips and gifts and all this stuff. So he'd probably be like the number one person to go. The South Korean president condemned the IDF after watching a video of the IDF throwing a Palestinian off a rooftop. South Korea's president came out, condemned these actions. He said, there is no difference between this and the Japanese wartime sexual slavery issue we raise, the massacre of Jews, or wartime killings. Wow. The Israeli foreign minister did not like this. They said the remarks by the president of Korea, including the trivialization of the massacre of Jews on the eve of the Holocaust Remembrance Day in Israel, are unacceptable and warrant strong condemnation. The president, for some strange reason, chose to chose to dig up a story from 2024 and cite a fake account that falsely presented it as a current event. Guys, come on. We killed that guy 2 years ago. Come on. What's the big deal? Come on, guys. What's the big fucking deal? We can't throw a Palestinian off a rooftop 2 years ago now. What has the world come to? What the fuck? So gross to be like, oh, this happened 2 years ago, so you can't say anything about it. Digging up old stories, are we? So what? We threw a Palestinian off a rooftop 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago, buddy. I mean, what the hell? Bringing up the past like that? So yeah, pretty ridiculous defense there. I mean, it is gross that Israel threw a Palestinian off a rooftop. And pretty goated of the South Korean president condemning that. Alyssa Slotkin, who is the senator from Michigan, was asked about AIPAC donors in her campaign, and because she seems to be a 2028 Democratic hopeful. And just listen to her response about taking money from AIPAC.
A good Xavier student is prepared.
So, basically, going back to what was said over here, you have not taken money from AIPAC, but pro-Israel lobbies and their donors have spent $4.5 million on your campaigns. But I do have a question unrelated to that. I just wanted to add that.
Goated.
So
Absolutely goated.
I'm curious why left-leaning media, well, I guess mainstream media and establishment Democrats are spending energy attacking influencers like Hassan Piker, as has been in the news lately, and why the Democratic establishment is just like immune to criticizing Democratic leadership like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, who are some of the main drivers in the reason that the Democratic Party is at its lowest approval rating in history.
Well, a couple of things. First, just to correct the record, I'm not sure what you're referring to on not AIPAC, but the Israel lobby. If you're equating Israel lobby to Jews, I got a problem with that.
If you're wondering, AIPAC donors are the people who donate money to AIPAC, or the people that receive money from AIPAC, then funneling it into Alyssa Slotkin's campaign. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about Jews. He's talking about people that donate to AIPAC. I don't understand. I mean, I get it. I get why she's doing this shit. She's trying to reframe the guy asking the question as being an anti-Semite to delegitimize the question and the criticism. But he's very clearly talking about, it's not AIPAC, the organization, that donated to you directly, but people that fund and donate to AIPAC are also donating to you. It would be like the Koch brothers company isn't donating to you, but one of the Koch brothers is donating to you. It's the same guy. It's just, is his company funding you or is the guy funding you? Same thing. If people give money to AIPAC and then they also give money to you, the chances are that you and AIPAC are ideologically aligned and have similar goals and interests. Hence the need to donate to both of you. And you don't need to hear the rest of the question. It's about the Democrat schism of wondering if we should support an anti-Israel, anti-Zionist like Hassan Piker. But yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, she even had another moment later on in the town hall where somebody like tries to correct the record about the somebody tries to correct the record, which, by the way, here's a question from another person asking about AIPAC, and it's a senior citizen, not a young person.
So we can hear you.
Thank you. Oh, hello. Welcome, first of all. I'm always concerned about the role of money in politics, as many of us are, because it plays an important role behind the scenes. So I'm wondering, with the new Majority Democrats organization, what is your view on taking money from AIPAC?
So I think there's, let's talk about, first of all, the big picture issue. The view of politicians, both sides of the aisle, is not good, right? And the higher you up are...
Folks, why can't we just answer a fucking question? Folks, why is it so hard to just answer a fucking question?
On the federal level, the lower your approval ratings, right? The mayor probably has a way better approval rating than anyone in Congress. And well-deserved. And a huge part of that is that people believe they are enriching themselves when they get these jobs, and that they are taking and casting votes for the wrong reasons because of who funds them. And that spans the gamut from special interests across the board, right? The big one that I've seen close up
She's like,
is the...
She's like, yeah, it's wrong that they let their donors control their messaging. It's not wrong that they have donors that are trying to control their messaging. It's wrong that they then listen to those donors. and let them control their messaging. For example, I'm going to list a couple things off. I personally, though, receive money from AIPAC-aligned donors, and then I vote in favor of AIPAC-related, like AIPAC-favored causes, so I can maintain those donors, and I vote in support of Israel. I'm also a former CIA agent, which is also why I'm voting in favor of Israel, because I love Israel. And, you know, don't mind me, but, oh, you take pharmaceutical money? Just vote in favor of Medicare for all, but keep taking your pharmaceutical money. But, oh, me? Taking AIPAC adjacent money and then voting in favor of Israel? You shouldn't look any further into that. But I'm going to take issue with everybody else that's doing it.
I found
Final rapid fire.
So first off, I wanted to say I found your response to the gentleman in front of me offensively bad faith to conflate support for Israel while they are committing genocide and while they just had a terror attack on Lebanon yesterday, killing almost 300 people. To conflate that with the Jewish identity, that is what anti-Semitism looks like. But my question is, I am so tired of the Democratic Party villainizing the left, villainizing progressives, and we've seen it here where they've tried to push away progressive voices. How can we empower those progressive voices? Because you said you want to be a big tent, but right now you're not growing the tent, you're moving the tent away from its base.
Goated. Ring her out! Drag her! Thank you. That's the thing. I'm so tired of people conflating Zionism with Judaism. They're not the same. That's like saying being white and white supremacy are the same thing. Oh, if you criticize the Klan, then you hate white people. That's not true. The Ku Klux Klan, the far-right Nazi groypers, are the extreme radical white supremacist group in this country. Zionism are just extreme radical Jewish supremacists with genocidal imperialist mindsets. There are a lot of Christian Zionists who believe in a Jewish ethno-state with apartheid part of it. That doesn't mean that all Jews are Zionists. It means there are millions of Jewish people out there with a variety of different opinions, different worldviews, different life experiences, and some of them are not Zionists, some of them are Zionists. Same thing with white people. There are millions of white people with vast amounts of viewpoints, worldviews, lives that they've lived. Some of them are white supremacists, some of them aren't. So, I mean, that's the most apt comparison I can make to what Zionism is. That if you criticize Zionism, you're not talking about all Jews. You're talking about an extremist ideology that is just rooted in genocide and supremacy. It's the same thing with the Klan. The Ku Klux Klan is disgusting and terrible. I'm not saying that all white people are disgusting and terrible. I'm saying that the Ku Klux Klan is disgusting and terrible. That's my point. That's literally the whole point. When you criticize Iran, for instance, and its lack of free speech, you're not saying that all Muslims should die. You're not criticizing Muslims. You're criticizing the Iranian government. Same thing when you talk about ISIS. They're an extremist, radical group that don't represent the views of all Muslims. It's the same thing. But of course, you know, Israelis and Zionists might actually conflate ISIS with all Muslims, as they seem to do with Hezbollah and Iran and Hamas. They just say like, oh no, that's what Muslims are like. That's what they say. Speaking of imperialism, this is cream soda, by the way. 0 sugar. Yum. Speaking of imperialism, now look. Let's say a country was threatening the U.S. with crippling economic sanctions. And instead of being like, oh, that country should stop threatening us with unjustifiable economic sanctions. Instead, you ask that country this question that this MSNBC reporter is about to ask the Cuban president.
Would you be willing to step down if it meant saving Cuba? ¿Está dispuesto a dimitir con tal de salvar a Cuba, para la gente de Cuba, al pueblo de Cuba?
Tú que eres una periodista
You are
importante,
a very
reconocida.
important and
If the United
recognized
States asked-
journalist.
If the
Have you
United
ever
States
asked that
asked-
question to any other president in the world?
Because it's one of the conditions the United States is asking for. Would you ever consider that?
Te explico.
Let me explain. Have you asked that question to any other president
I
in the
asked
world?
very
Have you
tough
asked that question
questions
to
to
any
our
other
own
president in the
president,
world?
yes.
Se la podría
That's so gross. To end economic sanctions with your country, sanctions that we have brought on to your country, embargoes that we have put on your country for no reason other than that you are a communist country. That's it. Do you think that you should give up power and give in to the bullying and pressure from the US to save your nation? Because think about it, if he resigns and hands the reins off to like a capitalist or some offshoot of some kind of Batista sympathizer, some kind of Shaw situation, you're basically saying that any country in the world has zero sovereignty and can easily be manipulated by the Americans. That the American president can go, I don't like that ruler, and I'm going to cripple your country, and my only demand is that you let us rule your country. Is that not just an economic coup? What kind of bullshit imperialist, capitalist news question is this? Why don't you just step down? We're demanding that you step down. Why don't you just do that? Make things so much easier. Why doesn't the US lift its embargo? Why doesn't the US help Cuba, send it resources, or at least allow other countries to trade with them and also trade with us? Because that's the thing about the embargo, is that if the Cuban government starts working with a corporation or a company that manufactures something, and all of a sudden the US is part of that manufacturing line, Cuba can't use it anymore because it's part of the US's economic line now, and we have embargoes against them. It would be illegal for that company to operate in the US and do dealings with Cuba. That is why Cuba is so crippled. It's our fault. Every time people are like, oh, communism has caused Cuba to look the way that it has, they're stuck in the past. Cuba looks this way because of the United States. We have done this to them. We have essentially said that we will cripple your economy. You cannot have sovereignty over your own nation because we simply are like afraid of the fact that you're a communist. We can't let a communist country survive because it could pose a threatening alternative to our slave-like capitalist economy in the United States. That is why we put embargoes on Cuba. If Cuba ever succeeded and became a successful communist nation because we allowed them to, this country you would see a left-wing swing that would make FDR blush. That would make the New Deal look like conservative policy. That is why we have embargoes on Cuba.
preguntar a Trump.
Could you ask
I
that
asked
question to
very
Trump?
hard questions of President Trump.
Eso muestra, ¿es una pregunta tuya o es una pregunta del departamento?
Is that a question from you, or is that coming from the State Department of the U.S.
My
government?
question is,
Oh my God. But true though. That literally sounds like a State Department propaganda question. Is, hey, the US is bullying you and crippling your country. Why don't you just step down and let us take a spin at the wheel? What the fuck? Imagine if we put up a naval blockade around Canada because we just simply wanted to. And a reporter went to Canada and said, "Hey, Mark Carney, what if you just let an American take over? Step down and let an American take over. And then, like, your people would be saved. Why don't you just do that, Mark Carney?" You think Mark Carney would be like, yeah, I guess so. I guess I never thought of it like that. No, he'd be like, fuck you. I'm not doing that. That's fucking ridiculous. This is just economic terrorism is what it is, which this will be a fun little foreshadowing for me to say that right now, but this is just straight up economic terrorism.
Is because it's one of the things that we've heard the U.S. government talk about, that they want political change here in Cuba. So my question for you, if they asked you, if they said this is...
She just say the U.S. government wants political change in Cuba? Who gives a fuck?
That they want political change here. One of the things that we've heard the U.S. government talk about, that they want political change here in Cuba. So my question for you, if they asked you, if they said this is one condition, would you step down?
Because of your honesty, I'm going to assume that you're asking that question because of those reasons. In Cuba, the people who are in leadership position is not elected by the U.S. government, and they don't have a mandate from the U.S. government. We have
exactly. What the fuck? Oh, the U.S. government wants you to change your country's politics. Okay. I'm sorry? What the hell does the U.S. government have to do with Cuba's politics? Like I said, imagine if another country was like, hey, United States, we're going to cripple your economy and destroy your country because we don't like your president. All the Europeans right now that hate Donald Trump, imagine if they tried to do a coup in the United States. We are such hypocrites here because you know we would have an issue with that. But we're trying to essentially murder a whole island of 10 million people in Cuba. We've already killed countless babies in ICUs in Cuba by blocking their oil imports for electricity. We've already done that. Why do we have any say in Cuban politics? If Cubans don't want communism anymore, they will decide that. Why are we deciding that for them?
A free sovereign state, a free state. We have self-determination and independence, and we are not subjected to the designs of the United States. On the other hand, Cuban leaders are not here representing an elite of power. You can see my background, where I was born, my family, what I've done throughout my life. We are elected by the people, although there's a narrative trying to disregard that. Any one of us, before we become part of a leadership role, we need to be elected at the grassroots level in an electoral district by thousands of Cubans. And then those who represent the Cubans at the National Assembly of the People's Power elect those leadership positions and those offices like it happens in many other countries around the world. So we have an election system on the basis of people's participation. So whenever we take this responsibility position, and this leadership position is not out of our personal ambition or a corporate ambition or even a party ambition. We do that as a mandate by the people. And the concept of revolutionaries giving up and stepping down is not part of our vocabulary. If the Cuban people understand that I'm not fit for office, that I am not I have no reason to the occasion, then and I should not be holding this position of president.
I mean, goated ass answer. You know, goated ass answer. It's literally just what I just said, which is, what the fuck does the American government have to do with the Cuban government? In what world do we have a say in what the fucking Cuban government does? Let the Cubans decide that. It's just bullying. It's economic terrorism, like I said it was.
Will respond to them. But you need to realize that you should not focus only on the president of the country, because we have a collegiate leadership which is very closely linked to the people.
Hey, Donald Trump's demanding your firstborn son. Would you be willing to meet that one demand to release the blockade?
But it's not the United States that can impose anything on us. The U.S. government that has implemented that hostile policy against Cuba has no moral to demand anything from Cuba. They have no moral, not even to say that they are concerned about the situation of the Cuban people, and that the Cuban government has taken Cuba to this situation when they have all this responsibility on their shoulders. I think the most important thing would be for them to understand and take this critical position, a sincere position, and that they recognize how much it has cost the Cuban people, what the policy that they have implemented in terms of what they've done, and how much they have deprived the American people from a normal relationship with the Cuban people, and that they set out, as we have requested and as we have asked and as we're interested in, to engage in dialogue and discuss any topic without any condition, not demanding changes from our political system, as we are not demanding changes from the American system, about which we have a number of doubts and a number of considerations, and that we can focus on what brings us together and what can create spaces of understanding in order to move away from confrontation and having a path forward for both countries of benefits of friendship and solidarity.
Loved that answer. Yeah, it's so gross that we're even like floating the idea of having any say over what the Cuban government does, or how it operates. What business do we have even doing that? And he's not wrong. We have been deprived, and so we have been deprived of a normal relationship with the Cuban people. They don't get to participate in the world economy like they should be allowed to. And we don't get to interact with them in the same way that we do with other countries. It is actually really sad. There's a lot of disgusting people that live in the U.S. that fled their families fled Cuba after Batista was overthrown. They fled because they couldn't have their slavery sugar plantations anymore. And they fled to the U.S. And now they sit in the U.S. from the comfort of their home with electricity, air conditioning, food on the table, lights are on, a healthy family, and they get to sit back, kick their feet up, and go, "Yeah, actually, we should destroy my family member's homeland, just because, just to bully them into reinstalling a disgusting American sympathized dictator, and recreating the same conditions that allowed my family to gain massive amounts of wealth for a long time." It's so gross. Anyway, let's talk about the California governor's race. A lot of people want to, go for the Democratic nominee for California governor, who is pretty much surely going to be the winner of that race. I think it's pretty solid at this point that the Democrat will usually win in California. But in the primary, the three leaders were Swalwell, Steyer, and Porter. Now, here's the thing about those three frontrunners. One, in all of California's Democratic Party, those were the best people you could find. Really? Those were the best. A congressman, a lady who just got caught on camera yelling at her staff for simply walking into the background, and then a billionaire. But Swalwell is gone. He's out of the race. I'm pretty sure I just read that he dropped out of the race on Sunday. he was just accused by 4 women of sexual misconduct, and one of those women even accused him of rape. And he is now seemingly getting ready to resign from Congress. Oh, we actually have the post. Oh, yeah, Representative Swalwell. Swalwell's statement of congressional resignation. I'm aware of efforts to bring an immediate expulsion vote against me and other members. Expelling anyone in Congress without due process within days of an allegation being made is wrong. Oh, shut up. Fuck off. But it's also wrong for my constituents to have me distracted from my duties. Therefore, I plan to resign my seat in Congress. Okay, bro. McDonald's is $20 an hour. Yeah, fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Saying that shit. Saying that, oh, this is wrong that I'm being expelled from Congress without due process because of an allegation. Allegations that he is denied, by the way. But, oh, my scapegoat is that, oh, I might be a little distracted because of these allegations. So I'm just going to resign anyways. What a fucking idiot, dude. God damn. Yeah, so he's resigning from Congress. He's not running for governor. He's out. He was the front runner too, 13.5% in the polling on average. So who is next? Well, Porter just got done yelling at her staffer. Here's the video of it.
It showed is if we don't electrify our transportation sector, that we're going to lose more than 500,000 Californians dying prematurely to air pollution and other problems, and the state could lose. Get out of my fucking shot! I wanted to tell you that.
Get out of my fucking shot! Yeah, so in my mind, she's fucking booted from the race too. Yeah, in my mind, Katie Porter is fucking booted from the race. She used to be a congresswoman for California District 47. She's a consumer protection attorney. You would think she would have been like somewhat decent as a candidate. I don't know. I'm a little turned off by the a little turned away by the get out of my fucking shot clip. But yeah, so she's probably going to drop further in the polls. Seems that Elizabeth Warren endorsed her. I don't know. She kind of rubs me the wrong way after that clip, but we'll see. We'll see what happens to her. She is polling lower than the top 3 people. Like, she is the bottom of the top 3. Let's talk about Steyer. Steyer's a billionaire. He seems to be the most likely candidate to deliver on Medicare for all. However, he did have that blunder recently where he said he didn't know what genocide was. Ugh. Bit of a yikes. However, he also made his money in a very immoral way. He made his money from the private prison industry. In fact, about 21 years ago, I think, he even owned an ICE detention facility. So keep an eye on this guy. I think he'd be the most likely to pass Medicare for all. I think Katie Porter is probably one of the more Warrenite liberal types. Tom Steyer might take some bold populist left-wing stances while still remaining a billionaire liberal. However, so far he seems to be the most likely to be a class traitor and go against his billionaire peers and actually deliver on Medicare for all. And if California has Medicare for all and becomes a shining example of what a Medicare for all system could look like in like the world's 4th largest economy California is, that could be a good blueprint for what the nationwide Medicare for all could look like. Or other blue states can implement Medicare for all. And then if I don't want to pay $1 bajillion, I could just drive to another state and get free healthcare, and which would totally fuck red states in the healthcare sector And then they might even be pressured into doing Medicare for all. And hopefully we can just get a presidential candidate that'll vouch for that anyways and then win. So I'm just trying to be hopeful here. I'm trying to huff the hopium, if you will. Let's rapid fire a couple of these. Trump just dismantled the U.S. Forest Service because he's, butchering government departments right now to make, to free up enough money in the budget to add $300 billion to his military budget, which would officially bring the military budget up to about 1.3 billion. No, not 1.3 billion. 1.3 trillion dollars. For the military. Okay. Melania Trump, for no reason, just out of nowhere, decided to come out and say that she has never had anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein. She said, "I have never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance." She said, "To be clear, I never had relations with Epstein or his accomplice Maxwell.
I never been friends with Epstein."
This is so random. And there are emails, because the Jmail archive has been posting them. There are emails of Jeffrey Epstein talking about knowing Melania. He said Jeffrey Epstein received an email stating, in 2016, "I remember flying back with Donald on his plane the first weekend I went to visit you in Florida. Was the weekend he met Melania, and he kept on coming out of the bedroom saying, 'Wow, what a hot piece of ass.'" Wow. And by the way, it says unknown user because they were redacted. First Lady Melania Trump admitted today that she sent this email to Ghislaine Maxwell in 2002. Melania says, "Dear GI, how are you? Nice story about Jeffrey Epstein in New York Mag. You look great on the picture. I know you are very busy flying all over the world. How was Palm Beach? I cannot wait to go down. Give me a call when you are back in New York. Love, have a great time. Love, Melania." Damn, bro. God damn. We also know, like, one of the most recognizable facts about Melania and Donald Trump's relationship is literally her affiliation with Jeffrey Epstein. That's like one of the most well-known pieces of information we know about those two, is that they more than likely met through Jeffrey Epstein. That's so crazy. Using Epstein to distract from the Iran war, which was started to distract from Epstein, crazy 4D chess move. I just gotta say. 5D chess if we're willing to go that far. I mean, genius moves here, folks. Oh, man. All right. Let's talk about the new crusade. The Pope is warring it out with Donald Trump. I really should say it's the other way around. It's Donald Trump going to war with the Pope, and the Pope is just like, "I'm just speaking the truth, man. I don't know what to say." As you know, the new Pope, Pope Leo XIV, is an American from Chicago. So automatically, you already know they picked him essentially to make it to where the Americans would actually listen to the Pope, because Americans are racist and they hear a guy with an accent and they go, I don't know if I'm going to listen to that, even though it's like very much against Catholicism to not listen to the Pope. But the Pope came out and condemned our war in Iran.
In English, I would simply say once again what I said in the Urbi et Orbi message on Sunday, asking all people of goodwill to search always for peace and not violence, to reject war, especially a war which many people have said is an unjust war, which is continuing to escalate and which is not resolving anything. In fact, we have a worldwide economic crisis, energy crisis, situation in the Middle East of great instability, which is only provoking more hatred throughout the world. So come back to the table, let's talk, let's look for solutions in a peaceful way, and let's remember especially the innocent, children, the elderly, the sick, so many people who have already become or will become victims of this continued warfare. To remind all that attacks on civilian infrastructure is against international law, but that it is also a sign of the hatred, the division, the destruction that the human being is capable of. And we all want to work for peace. People want peace. I would invite the citizens of all the countries involved to contact the authorities, political leaders, congressmen, to ask them, tell them to work for peace and to reject war always. Thank you very much.
Pretty awesome answer from the Pope. Honestly, the Pope outflanking the liberals in this country is pretty nuts. But yeah, the Pope came out, understandably a Christian man who doesn't believe in warfare of killing innocent people. Obviously, he's going to come out and condemn the war in Iran. I don't think anybody's shocked that the Pope is anti-Iran war. However, Trump cannot handle this. He cannot have it. He has to say something about this. And so he releases just this fucking mouthful, just this complete fucking mouthful of a Truth Social post. I mean, look at this right here. Look at that. Just crying on Truth Social. He can't fucking help it, man. Even back then, George Bush would probably have just cried and bitched about it behind closed doors. This motherfucker has Truth Social, his own social media platform. He just goes on this long-ass, wordy-ass rant like he's talking about a fucking candidate for political office. He says Pope Leo is weak on crime. What? What are you talking about? Weak on crime? He's the Pope! He's literally the Pope! His whole job is to just communicate what God is saying to him. He's just there to spread God's mission and God's message. That's the whole job of the Pope. He's weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy. He talks about, quote unquote, fear of the Trump administration, but doesn't mention the fear the Catholic Church and all other Christian organizations had during COVID when they were arresting priests, ministers, and everybody else for holding church services. You were president during that era, and you didn't say jack shit about that. What are you talking about? Also, does he not know that this is a different pope? Like, does he not know that? That this is not the same pope from before? This guy's only been the pope for like a year, people. Pope Francis was the pope when he was president the first time. So what are we talking about? What was Pope Leo supposed to say? 6 years ago, 5 years before he was even the pope. Even when going outside and being 10 and even 20 feet apart, I like his brother Luis much better than I like him, because Luis is all MAGA. He gets it, and Leo doesn't. I don't want a pope who thinks it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I don't want a pope who thinks it's terrible that America attacked Venezuela, a country that was sending massive amounts of drugs into the U.S., and even worse, emptying their prisons. including murderers, drug dealers, and killers, into our country. What are we even talking about at this point? Like, what are we even talking about? Oh my God. This dude lies like he breathes. And I don't want a pope who criticizes the president of the United States because I'm doing exactly what I was elected in a landslide to do, setting record low numbers in crime and creating the greatest stock market in history. He doesn't want a pope that criticizes the United States president. He's an American pope. He's an American. This is just the slippery slope to I don't want Americans criticizing me because I was elected. I don't want Americans exercising their First Amendment rights to criticize me. Leo should be thankful because, as everyone knows, he was a shocking surprise. He wasn't on any list to be pope. That's not true. I'm pretty sure he was. And was only put there by the church because he was an American. They thought that would be the best way to deal with President Donald J. Trump. That is crazy. No, I'm pretty sure he was on a list to get chosen. What the fuck? If I wasn't in the White House, Leo wouldn't be in the Vatican. Yeah, I mean, that would probably be true because J.D. Vance killed Pope Francis. You know, but like by the logic of the Catholic Church, the way that it elects popes, by this logic, God chose Pope Leo because of this exact reason. So in reality, like in the Catholic world, this was actually God's will to create a counterweight to the essentially the Antichrist American president. And you'll see why I'm calling him the Antichrist in a second. Unfortunately, Leo's weak on crime, weak on nuclear weapons, does not sit well with me, nor does the fact that he meets with Obama sympathizers like David Axelrod, a loser from the left. What fucking year is this? Are we sundowning right now? Who is one of those who wanted churchgoers and clerics to be arrested? Leo should get his act together as Pope. Use common sense, stop catering to the radical left, and focus on being a great Pope, not a politician. It's hurting him very badly, and more importantly, it's hurting the Catholic Church. What in God's name did I just read? The American president just went on this long-ass rant because the Pope said that this war is wrong and that people who pray for this war have blood on their hands and God will not answer those prayers. I don't know. It seems like he's saying the most Christian thing you could possibly say, and Trump is not a Christian. Surprise, surprise. And that's why he has a problem with it.
And they're going to go back filled up with oil. Okay?
Why did you attack Pope Leo on Truth Social?
I want you to see how gross this is. This is how gross American media is. That we have the, like, the countdown to a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Why are we hyping this up like it's like fucking countdown to WrestleMania? What is this country, man?
I don't think he's doing a very good job. He likes crime, I guess. He hit us. Think of it. He's worried about fear. What about the fear when the ministers and the priests and all of those great people that were arrested during COVID?
It's just a reiteration of his fucking Truth Social statement, of course. I mean, my God. I wonder this is what I want to know. I want to know what J.D. Vance thinks of all of this. Pope Leo responded. He said, "I have no fear of the Trump administration or of speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel, which is what I believe I am here to do and what the church is here to do." Yeah. Somebody put a picture of Trump being the golden calf. But in response to Pope Leo doubling down and being like, I'm not afraid of you, I guess he just decides to post a picture of him as Jesus. I mean, what is this? He says it in a later clip that he thought that he was just a doctor in the photo. I'm sorry, but he's literally Jesus in this photo. He's wearing the robes. What do you mean you thought you were a doctor? Also, wow, it's smaller. What the hell is this thing back here? Flying with the soldiers. What is that? Ay, ay, ay. That did not go over well in the base, by the way. A lot of people got mad at him for doing something so sacrilegious. And you know, as if things couldn't, what they privated it? As if things couldn't get more biblical. Apparently the Strait of Hormuz has just turned red because of like iron deposits and stuff like that. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, the Strait of Hormuz has just been turning red because of iron-rich soil. I don't know, if I was religious, I would have taken that as a sign. So, you know, that's the Trump versus the Pope. That's Trump versus the Pope. I would say the Pope is probably winning this one right now, although there have been talks that Trump wants to send military forces to the Vatican. This country is so fucking over and cooked and over if we send troops to the Vatican. We're fucking cooked right now. It's over. It's literally over. And I want to know what JD Vance thinks about this. I'm pretty sure he's already said that he doesn't care, that he supports the president. And in that case, he's not Catholic. If you don't support what the Pope is saying during all of this, you're not Catholic. It would be Donald Trump to cause the next great schism in Catholicism, right? So, on the Israel side of things, Trump claims because Israel violated the ceasefire talks by continuing to bomb Lebanon because they just couldn't help themselves. And Trump said that apparently he told Netanyahu apparently Netanyahu told Trump that he would quote unquote low key it. What the fuck does that even mean? JD Vance came back to the US after being in Pakistan and said that the negotiations failed. I'm sorry, but JD Vance just has the kiss of death at this point. Like, actually, he just has the kiss of death. This man ruins everything he touches. He killed the Pope. He ruined these economic talks with Iran, these negotiations with Iran. And there's a third thing I'm about to show you later. But yeah, he just has the kiss of death. Here's what he had to say about the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz.
Economic terrorism against the entire. When it comes to weapons of war, what they have done is engage in this act of economic terrorism against the entire world. They basically threatened any ship that's moving through the Straits of Hormuz. Well, as the President of the United States showed, two can play at that game. And if the Iranians are going to try to engage in economic terrorism, we're going to abide by a simple principle that no Iranian ships are getting out either. We know that's a big deal to them. We know that.
So it's economic terrorism when Iran does it, but it's economic strategy when we do it. Got it. And also, in this clip, isn't he basically just saying that we are also doing economic terrorism because we are also going to be doing a blockade? This fucking guy, man.
Applies additional economic leverage. And again, Brett, the president wants the Iranian people to thrive and succeed.
Oh my God. No, he doesn't. He literally just threatened last week Last Tuesday, he just threatened to end their civilization in a way that could never be brought back. He doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, it's economic pressure when we do it, and it's economic terrorism when Iran does it. Absolutely ridiculous. So, you know, JD Vance has the kiss of death. He's Catholic, and now his daddy Trump is fighting and threatening the Pope. He visited the last Pope, and essentially is the thing that killed him, because he was one of the last people the Pope spoke to. He then goes to Pakistan to negotiate a ceasefire with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and the talks fail almost immediately within a day. He goes to Hungary and campaigns for Viktor Orban days before their election. Viktor Orban, who's been essentially a fascist dictator over Hungary for 16 years, a far-right fascist anti-European dictator, reigned for 16 years, lost his election in a landslide 2/3 victory for the opposition. He is literally the Grim Reaper, politically speaking. He is the political Grim Reaper. How awesome is that? A couple of quick things, and then I'm going to go. New Mexico is now the first U.S. state to make public universities tuition-free. So there we go. We're already paving the way for state-by-state socialism. So that's what I'm saying, Tom Steyer. Get that fucking Medicare for all going in California, baby. I want it here, too. And the last thing is just something I thought was really funny. A Ugandan military chief demanded $1 billion from Turkey, or he will cut all... he's Uganda's military chief, like the military chief of Uganda, is demanding $1 billion from Turkey, or he will cut all diplomatic relations in the next 30 days. I have no words. So it seems a few more things have happened since the first part of this recording on Tuesday. The war between the president and the Pope has seemingly continued to spiral. Donald Trump cannot help himself. He can't help himself. He goes on Truth Social. He's already pissed off the base, right? He's already pissed off the base by doing this war. Gas prices are getting jacked up, and now he's beefing it out with the Pope. So his Catholic MAGA supporters will maybe not be super down with that. I don't know. I feel like Trump has kind of become the new de facto leader in their eyes. So, but after the AI picture of Trump being depicted as Jesus, he takes it down, right, with backlash, because he has backlash from his Christian fan base. Well,
today
then he posts this.
Pope in the African nation of Cameroon. With an authoritarian leader, a contested election, and an ongoing civil war, the country paused for the papal visit.
Although we have different beliefs, we have different ways of worshiping, we have different ways of living, we can live together in peace.
The first American pope preaching peace aboard the papal plane today, not mentioning President Trump by name, as Trump continues his attacks against him.
Awesome that the Pope has the Pope plane. How cool is that? So the Pope was on the Pope plane, and he landed, and then he got in the Pope mobile. You remember the Pope mobile? You remember when Pope Francis showed up in the Pope mobile? Holy shit. Like in 2015 or whatever. Dude, they've got the Pope plane. They call it the, what did they call it? The Papal plane? Yo. The Pope's iced out. Can we just admit that the Pope is iced out? Pretty awesome.
And today, another image reposted.
Here's the picture of the president who is like chiseled by the AI. They like gave him this really strong facial structure and like a chiseled jawline and all that. This is not at all what Donald Trump looks like, by the way. Like, not even close. This is so weird looking, man. They gave him like the action movie president look with the white Jesus next to him.
Posted to President Trump's social media account showing Jesus embracing the president. Earlier this week, Trump removed an AI-generated photo depicting him as a Jesus.
Oh, that's nice that they put that label there. Yeah, this picture of him like healing a sick man who looks oddly like Jeffrey Epstein. Healing him right in front of a nurse, and it seems that it's 2 members of the military and then like someone related to the guy, I guess. He's like, folks, it's not true. It's not a picture of me as Jesus. It's actually me as a doctor. It's right. I'm actually a healer. I'm a doctor. That's right. That's what it depicts. Don't think anything else of it. I'm just a nice, holy doctor.
Like figure. And in a late night post, Trump writing, will someone please tell Pope Leo that Iran has killed at least 42,000 innocent, completely unarmed protesters in the last 2 months?
I love this justification for the war. Hey everybody, you know Iran killed 42,000 unarmed protesters? And so in response, we decided to blow up an elementary school and kill 160 schoolgirls. And since then, we have killed thousands more Iranians. So look, the Iranian government, they can't kill their own people. That's why we had to step in, and we had to also start killing their people. They killed 42,000 innocent unarmed protesters, and so we've gone in and destroyed bridges. We've threatened to end their civilization in a way that can never be brought back, in Trump's own words. That's our response to the 42,000 innocent unarmed protesters. And then the whole Iran wants to have a nuclear weapon. How come they can't? Why can't they have a nuclear weapon? But Israel can? Like, why? It's also very clear from the religious doctrine that the old supreme leader followed, and based on what he was saying, that they didn't want the uranium for a nuclear bomb. They wanted the uranium for nuclear energy. That's what they were enriching it for. And now with this new supreme leader, you're far more likely to get a nuclear bomb. I don't think Iran would even use it. I think they want it as a nuclear deterrent. That's why Israel wanted it. They were right next to the USSR. No shit, they wanted a nuclear bomb. Because they felt threatened. It's a nuclear deterrent. That's the whole reason why Iran would want a nuclear bomb, is as a nuclear deterrent. So shit like the U.S. bombing a girls' school and killing under 60 kids can't happen, because the threat of a nuclear war would be looming over the entire conflict.
And that for Iran to have a nuclear bomb is absolutely unacceptable. Vice President J.D. Vance at
Oh yeah, we'll get to J.D. Vance. Also, can local news not figure out how to go into Adobe and change the audio properties to be in both channels? And even before it gets to the editor, does the recording engineer not know how to record in stereo instead of mono? Why the hell am I just hearing this through my left ear? That is so crazy. That this happens with like every local news video that I watch on this podcast. That's so bizarre. They need a film class. If y'all want a film class from me, hit me up. Here's JD Vance's response to the Trump Pope war. And he's a Catholic, by the way, so just remember that.
I think that's a totally reasonable thing. It isn't particularly newsworthy.
A Catholic convert in his adulthood, by the way.
Do you think that when the president says it's hurting him very badly, catering to the radical left, it's hurting the Catholic Church. Do you agree with the president there?
Well, look, I think the president has the prerogative to set American foreign policy. He's got the prerogative to set American immigration policy. He has to look out for the interests of the United States of America. And that inevitably means that when the Vatican comments on issues of public policy, sometimes there's going to be agreement, of course, and sometimes there's going to be disagreement. I think that's a reasonable thing, Brett. I don't think that it's particularly newsworthy, but I certainly think that in some cases, it would be best for the Vatican to stick to matters of morality.
J.D. Vance, as a Catholic man, allegedly, is saying, he is saying as just a Catholic, a regular old Catholic, not even a member of like a priesthood or anything like that. He's saying that the Pope, the messenger for God in Catholicism, should stick to issues of morality and stay out of American affairs. The Pope, who is supposed to be the guy that J.D. Vance always listens to, because he is the direct messenger for God in Catholicism. Vance is saying that that guy should stick to issues of morality. He's essentially saying that God shouldn't have a say on what Americans do in their own country. That is such a level of God complex egotism, and just shows that J.D. Vance is not religious. He probably claims to be. I'm sure he'd get really mad if he heard somebody say that he's not religious, and I'm sure he'd go on his righteous tirade about who are you to judge a man's faith. I can just say that based on what he says and how he acts, he doesn't believe in God, because if he did, he would know that he's going to hell for the shit that he does as the vice president and the shit that he aligns himself with. The fact that as a Catholic man, he is defying the Pope and siding with Trump and saying that the Pope shouldn't have a say in American affairs and should stick to morality, that is just a direct affront to God in Catholicism. And let's not forget, it's not like he's saying like, oh, this foreign Pope shouldn't have a say in what we do in America. First of all, that's so hypocritical because we constantly have a say in foreign affairs. We are, as I talked about earlier in this episode, fucking with Cuba, which is a whole separate nation. So by this logic, we're hypocrites. But the Pope isn't a foreign man. He's an American, born in America, and grew up in Chicago. He's an American. Of course he would have an opinion on American politics or have something to say about it. And killing innocent people in Iran, murdering thousands of innocent people in Iran, and then on top of that, economically strangling the rest of the world, and making life for millions of Iranians, especially the 9 million living in Tehran, a living hell, and poisoning them by bombing oil depots. That's an issue of morality. It's sick. It's disgusting. If they bombed our oil depots, the American government would lose its fucking mind. But all it is that they're being treated the way that they treat others. So I would say it's well within the purview of the Pope to be making statements about, is it morally justified for the U.S. to attack Iran seemingly unprovoked and destabilize the world's economy, the world's oil market, and to poison and kill thousands of Iranians, poison at the very least 9 million Iranians in Tehran. I would say that is an issue of morality.
Stick to matters you know, what's going on in the Catholic Church, and let the President of the United States stick to dictating American public policy. But when they're in conflict, they're in conflict. I don't worry about it too much, Brett. I think it's a natural thing. I'm sure it'll happen in the future, and it's not that big of a deal that it happened in the past.
That's such a fence sitter ass answer. He's being like, yep, it's bound to happen. Oh well. Bound to happen, I guess. Here's what JD Vance said at Turning Point USA.
I remember.
This is him bragging that we stopped funding the war in Ukraine.
Having this conversation with my father-in-law, who's an amazing guy, and you know, it was actually during a Synod event that I had done, where I had somebody who came up to me, and I'm sure a great person, like a wonderful person. It was a Ukrainian American in Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah, I was campaigning for the Senate. There are a lot of Ukrainian Americans in Cleveland, Ohio. And this person got really agitated at me because I was saying we should stop funding the Ukraine war, okay? And I still believe that, obviously, and it's one of the things I'm proudest that we've done as administration is we've told Europe that if you want to buy weapons, you can, but the United States is not buying weapons and sending them to Ukraine anymore. And I remember...
Good Lord. Oh my God. There's another issue of morality. Should we let the Ukrainians die to Russian imperialism? Should we allow the Ukrainians to fall victim to what we do to other countries across the planet? Oh, man. Here's okay.
I'm a lifelong.
For real, brother. Why are we doing this mono shit? Tom Homan, who you know is you know, the border czar, has decided to weigh in on the debate on whether the Pope should have a say in American politics. Take a look at this.
I'm a lifelong Catholic.
Catholic alert. Catholic alert.
First communion, confirmation. I love the Catholic Church. I just wish they stick to fixing the church because there's issues. I know because I'm a member. And stay out of politics. I mean, I watched the Cardinals get interviewed in 60 Minutes. They don't understand. They think the Trump policy is inhumane and ICE is a rogue agency. President Trump has illegal immigration down 97%.
Do you think that if God came down to earth himself and said that what the Americans are doing is heinous and disgusting, that Tom Homan would be like, you know what, maybe he's right? Or do you think they would be like, God should stay out of American politics? You think he would say something like that? So far, Iran's been far more respectful to Jesus and the Pope than like these guys have been. Iran's like Twitter accounts have literally been saying, or at least members of the Iranian government have literally been saying that the Pope is right and that, you know, he honors Jesus as we honor Jesus and all this stuff. Because, you know, Muslims also believe in Jesus. And they're showing him like mad respect, the Pope. And it's kind of crazy to see. Like, it is kind of nuts to see. And also, it is rich that the Republicans are saying keep religion out of politics. What if they spent, like, the last, almost 20 years, at the very least, doing... at this, I should say longer than that. I'm thinking of, like, when Obama took office to now. But really, like, it's way longer than that. George W. Bush called the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq holy wars. You know, we've been using religion to justify war for a long time. Every time we're like, yeah, God bless this war, I feel like it's God's calling to send us into this war. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, we don't want the Pope to weigh in on our illegal invasion of Iran. You know, we don't want the Pope's opinion on matters of U.S. foreign policy. So, ay. It's just such a hypocrite, man.
When 97% less people come in, how many women aren't being raped making that journey by the cartels?
Oh my god. Fucking dude. By this logic, we should be sending white men out of the country back to Europe. Citizens commit far more crime on a much larger scale than immigrants do. Deporting millions of people and destroying millions of lives and breaking up millions of families because a few immigrants committed crimes. A few undocumented immigrants committed crime. It's such an inhumane thing. Every justification Republicans use for all of their horrible policies would not fly. They just would not fly in a normal world. You know, when that guy killed Laken Riley in Athens, I mean, you know, it's a horrible tragedy. It's terrible that it happened. I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her family. But that doesn't mean that we should then round up every undocumented immigrant in this country and ship them into camps on the other side of the country, and then maybe someday come around to actually deporting them, but not deporting them to the country that they came from. Or if we do deport them to the country that they came from, they're going back to what's essentially a war zone. Even that girl's own father is like disgusted by how his daughter's name has been used as like a political tool, a political football to push racist, white supremacist ideology. So I don't think the crimes of the few should determine the fate and the punishment of the many. I don't think that should be the case. You know, here's a decent analogy, or comparison, I should say. The U.S. has bombed and murdered millions of people in the last 60 years. I'll just give you that time frame. Here, from the start of the Cold War to now, we have murdered millions abroad. Do I think that then justifies one of the people we've affected with that? That justifies that country coming here and killing an untold amount of people, innocent people that had nothing to do with those prior mentioned deaths. Do I think it's justified that Al-Qaeda did 9/11? No, but I kind of get why they did it. Doesn't make it right. You know, I don't think that a few undocumented immigrants committing heinous crimes justifies the deportation and removal of millions of people. Sorry, I just think that's inhumane. I think it's gross. You know, what's a little kid being ripped away from his family and sent to a detention center in Louisiana? How does that help you prevent a potential unforeseen murder committed by an undocumented immigrant? How does that help that? How do you bring down those rates? Like, how does that justify arresting and transporting and trafficking an 8-year-old from Minnesota to Louisiana, separated from his family? How does that justify? Like, how do you justify that? I don't know. I mean, I do know, but this shit always leaves me at a loss for words.
And children aren't being sex trafficked. How many people aren't dying making that journey? Over 4,000 died during the Biden administration, historic record. 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl, historic record. Secure border safety.
Most of the fentanyl in this country, I'm pretty sure, is coming domestically. Like, it's made by large pharmaceutical companies. And that's how it ended up spreading.
Historic record.
What did he say was the historic record?
Dead from fentanyl, historic record. Secure border
Hold
safety.
on.
How many people aren't dying making that journey? Over 4,000 died during the Biden administration, historic record.
4,000 people died in 4 years, and that justifies the deportation of like 60 million people, documented or undocumented. I mean, those 4,000 people had lives that were valuable and complex. You know, I'm sure of that. But that doesn't justify the deportation and removal of millions of people that had nothing to do with that.
Fentanyl, historic record.
I'm telling you, and they do the same thing. It's not just immigrants. They do the same thing, you know, with black people. One black person like kills someone on a train in New York City, and all of a sudden it's how do we come up with 7 different ways to torture and kill all black people? Like, that's what they do. That's what all these white supremacists do. One person from one demographic does one thing, and all of a sudden the whole demographic is like public enemy number one, and we got to find something to do about these people. White people commit heinous, horrifying crimes all the time, and you don't see these same people going, we should start jailing and rounding up white people, because they would never say that, because they're white supremacists. Like, that's the playbook here. A handful of immigrants commit a horrible crime. You know, they kill somebody, or they sexually assault somebody, or they rob someone at gunpoint, or do a home robbery or something like that. Or they you know, break into a car, whatever it may be, and all of a sudden we got to remove an entire demographic from the country's population. That's just so crazy to me. Sorry I like kind of derailed this into immigration, but Tom Homan mentioned it. He's the one who fucking brought it up. Because he's mad that the Pope finds it abhorrent to round up and put in concentration camps all of these undocumented immigrants, even documented immigrants as well, even a few citizens as well, all because they may look like an immigrant, that we've rounded them all up and put them in concentration camps because we have this unrealistic fear of brown people in this country. Yeah, sorry that the Pope finds that morally abhorrent. Let's see. So then Stephen Miller goes on Fox News and well, this is what he had to say about the war in Iran.
And this embargo and every other option is on the table as President Trump seeks that final, safe, secure outcome for.
You catch that?
And this embargo and every other option is on the table as President Trump seeks that final, safe, secure outcome for the people of the world.
All right, Stephen Miller, thank you for joining.
That final what? That final what? Does Stephen Miller just have extensive, deep, academic, obsessive knowledge of just everything to do with Nazis? I would love to see what his bookshelf looks like. I would love to see that. That's so crazy. This man just has like deep encyclopedic knowledge of all the Nazi shit, and it almost slips out of him all the time. When last year he said that shit about Trump having plenary authority, and then had to like walk it back. And just now when he says Trump's got to find that final safe solution. You know, that final solution, huh? It's so fucking weird. Why is he so obsessed with Nazism? And he's Jewish, by the way. That makes it even weirder. Why are you so obsessed with Nazism, man? That's like if swap out Stephen Miller with like a black guy, and he just constantly slips up and almost quotes David Duke. Like, every time he shows up to defend the president. You know, he's talking about like, and then Trump is going to secure the future for our country. Like, what the fuck? Why are you so obsessed with that shit? It's just gross. And other news, JD Vance spoke at TPUSA. Apparently, so this is why I wanted to talk about this. Apparently, Erica Kirk was supposed to go to this event. Obviously, she's the owner and like the CEO of TPUSA, and instead of going, her security is like, yeah, there were a lot of threats to Erica Kirk, and our security couldn't guarantee her safety, so we're backing out of this event tonight. And you might go like, oh, okay, so they're gonna have like somebody sub in for her. Who's gonna sub in? JD Vance. If Erica Kirk had credible threats against her life to where she couldn't even do her own company's event, why would the Vice President of the United States be a suitable replacement? Wouldn't he be a much larger target? Like, how does that make any sense? You think she like woke up that morning and turned to him in the bed and was like, hey babe, I can't make it to the TPUSA event today because of all the threats against my life. You think you could do it for me? And JD's like, yeah, of course. Just let me call my wife and let her know I'm not going to be home for a bit. She thinks I'm at a conference right now. So weird.
Places, perhaps. Tell us what you think about that. Some of the people that have made, part-time jobs out of attacking Erica, and this is the net result. Sure.
Oh my God, holy boring. That's just so funny to me that they were like, oh, Erica Kirk has credible threats against her life. We are replacing her on the panel with JD Vance, the Vice President of the United States. All right. Let's lock in on this last part. Israel is ramping up its new genocide in Lebanon. It has been bombing neighborhoods left and right. And it seems that on this one in particular, people seem pretty fed up. When the Gaza Palestinian genocide was starting, it was fighting an uphill battle. I felt like Sisyphus pushing the fucking boulder up the mountain, where I was having to be like, look, I'm not agreeing with what Hamas did, but like maybe Israel shouldn't retaliate by murdering 1,200 Palestinians in like a day, and then continuing to repeat that pattern every single day. In response to Hamas killing 1,200 Israelis. Maybe the adequate response shouldn't be bombing thousands of them every single day for like months. And then it escalated into like, no, they're trying full on ethnic cleansing. This is a genocide, people. And I had liberals, like we all had liberals and Democrats being like, don't fuck this up for us in the election by talking about this. Or when really, like, if they had just talked about it and the Democrats had gotten on board with just talking about it and saying that it's wrong, we'd probably be in a whole different situation right now. And it felt like a heavy battle back then. I had a lot of Zionists hit me up on Instagram. And notably, in the episode I made about a month after October 7th, I brought up a text conversation that I had with someone I grew up knowing, who used to bully me, by the way, so fuck this guy, who is a Christian Zionist, I believe. And he tried to argue with me about Israel, and I lost a couple followers over it on my Instagram, but I kept posting about it. And eventually the tide shifted, and now it's pretty widely accepted that Israel is a genocidal, warmongering, rogue state with full genocidal intent, with imperialist intent on the Middle East, and pretty much has the American government on a leash with AIPAC and J Street and other Zionist adjacent funding organizations. And not only did the tide shift on Gaza, now that they're ramping up operations in Lebanon and seemingly just killing like random civilians in droves, and then trying to do the old playbook of, no, you don't understand. Hezbollah was inside the water fountain. Hezbollah was in that guy's trunk. Hezbollah was in that guy's basement. They're running Hezbollah operations out of the school. That shit's not working. That you can't just take the same excuses you used for killing Palestinians by saying Hamas is under every important sector of civilian infrastructure, and then swap the names out to, Hezbollah has the exact same tactics of hiding in civilian infrastructure and neighborhoods. And we just so happen to know this information, and we decided, the people living in those areas, it's worth it. Let's blow them up too. Because famously, like I used to say almost 3 years ago, is that famously when a bank robber takes a hostage at the bank, the police just nuke the bank. Famously, the police go in guns a-blazing and just kill everyone in the room instead of trying to negotiate for the hostage release. Famously. That's what I used to say in response to the human shield argument, is that even if it is true that Hamas is taking human shields and using human shields, even if that was true, that doesn't mean that you just go, fuck it, I'm going to eviscerate 2,600 family bloodlines in Palestine simply to kill like one Hamas militant. And they're trying to do the same thing in Lebanon right now, and it's not working. Public opinion has tanked significantly. We went from like a +2 in the Democratic Party for Israel support in 2022 to like -56. And this shit's a big problem now for the Democrats. A lot of them are hesitant to get on board. But look, it's the writings on the wall, and people have their eyes open and they're paying attention now that you can't just keep crying anti-Semitism when you state the simple fact that a rogue country is murdering people that they deem enemies, murdering innocent people in mass because they want to take over territory. You can't keep crying anti-Semitism on stuff like that anymore. Because when you say that's anti-Semitic, people are going to start going, well, then I guess I'm an anti-Semite. And now you've got a whole new group of people who don't know any better calling themselves anti-Semites. Because you want to claim that you're doing all of this for Jews. And it hurts Jewish people around the world by claiming that. And it's also just disingenuous. The state of Israel doesn't represent all Jewish people. Here's what happens. So there was a vote on whether or not to send bulldozers to Israel. Since when are bulldozers vital to the defense and survival of the state of Israel? It's already bad enough we give them Iron Dome funding for their defense, and then on top of that, pay for their offensive weapons that they use to bomb these people. But now all of a sudden we're obligated to give them bulldozers to tear down Palestinian and Lebanese homes? What part of the playbook is that part of? And what part of the Israel has every right to defend itself narrative does that lend itself to? Oh, Israel has the right to bulldoze a neighborhood and set up a fucking Israeli city? I mean, what kind of argument are you making here? How are you justifying that? They took the vote. 40 senators voted to block the $300 million of bulldozers to Israel. Imagine that $300 million going towards fixing your roads, your bridges, funding schools even. Imagine that. Nope, we have to send that money to fund bulldozers for Israel. Makes no fucking sense. and 40 senators voted against it. The ones that voted in favor of it were I don't know why I'm blanking. Blumenthal, Coons, Cortez Masto, Fetterman, of course, Kirsten Gillibrand, of course, staunch Israel defenders, Peters, Reed, Rosen, Chuck Schumer, Warner, and Whitehouse. Who is shocked, man? Who is shocked? Israel's most staunch defenders voting in favor of sending Israel bulldozers. And this really reminded me of Rachel Corrie, who was a 23-year-old activist who fought for Palestinian rights. And it's crazy to think about the story now, because when I first heard about it, this was a long time ago, but now I'm officially older than she ever was. And at 23 years old, at 23, she had more courage and more bravery than any of us fuckers. You know, there's nothing brave about me talking about this into a microphone. It's brave to go to Palestine and fight for Palestinian rights in 2003 and advocate for their sovereignty. And Israel ran her over and killed her with a bulldozer at the age of 23 in March 2003. Ran her over and killed her with a bulldozer for the crime of simply advocating for Palestinians whose homes were being destroyed by the Israeli government. So that's the type of shit that America is funding. We are buying and selling, not even selling, we're buying $300 million of bulldozers for Israel, for those same bulldozers to be used to destroy Palestinian and Lebanese homes. And it just immediately reminds me of this young American woman fighting for the rights and sovereignty and right to live for the Palestinians. And in response to that, Israel ran her over and killed her with a bulldozer. Fucking disgusting. It's disgusting. And we're paying for more of that. We're paying for that to continue. On top of our imperialist ambitions and funding bullshit around the planet that just causes death and destruction everywhere we go, it seems that Trump is continuing the monthly trend of spinning the globe and picking a new target that he can exploit and destroy and poison. You know, January it was Venezuela. February it was Greenland, him floating the idea of invading Greenland. At the very last day of February, leading all the way into March, throughout all of March, it's Iran. April, it's Cuba. Officially now. It's not talk anymore. The Pentagon is reportedly planning to begin operations to invade and occupy Cuba as of April 15th. What is this unhealthy obsession? Oh, and Trump hinted at it when the DoorDash grandma showed up to the White House.
We're going to do this, and we may stop by Cuba after we're finished with this. But Cuba...
DoorDash grandma, by the way, is just a Nevada GOP operative. In case you were wondering. She's not an actual DoorDash grandma. She's literally a member of the Nevada GOP and was hand-selected for that role. But yeah, we're just going to go invade and occupy Cuba as if we couldn't brutalize and destroy the lives of Cubans more. Yeah, this country is out of hand. It's out of hand. How much more death and destruction can we cause around the world before we get serious blowback? Because you know it's coming. I've been dreading it for a while. I can literally taste it in the air. That, you know, whether it happens soon or it happen in 20 years, we're going to get some serious fucking blowback. And for that, I thank you for watching. If you want to support this podcast, you can go to patreon.com/forbiddenlandpod. I recorded this in 2 parts so I can make it a little longer, because I usually don't have that much time to record these. You can go to patreon.com/forbiddenlandpod to support us. I recorded this in 2 parts. I kind of like it because it made this episode a lot longer, and I was able to give more current events, and I was able to talk about the first set of topics with a fresher perspective, like fresh into it. I'm still passionate about it. It's still on my mind. So, I like the way that I did this episode. Maybe I'll continue doing it in the future. It is a lot of work to do it this way. But yeah, thanks for watching. You can listen to this podcast on audio-only platforms like Apple Podcast or the Samsung Fridge, or maybe I just realized last week, maybe a fridge with Amazon Alexa built into it. 2 different smart fridge options we know of so far, potentially. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.